Hi.
Hello.
I'm hoping this is better now. I'm hoping I can be heard by the world. Hello, world. I am DM Dan. This is Explorers of Elsewhere Live, Tales from Elsewhere. We're going to play some Daggerheart, and by we, I'm talking Nate. Hello.
Hello.
Livy. Hello.
Hello.
Georgia. Hello.
Hello.
Theo. Hello.
Hiya.
And Dan. Hello.
Ahoy.
Hello, hello, hello. So yes, we are back. We were last live a fortnight ago to play the first chunk of Tale 4 of Tales of Elsewhere, which is very innocently dubbed Dragonwrath. Who knows why he's called it that? But yeah, if you're in chat, it's good to see you. Hello, Chris. How you doing? Yeah, last time we met, we rejoined our 5 explorers in the capital city of Avermore, who were then obtained via courier to embark on another mission at the request of an Archmagister elect by the name of Gannis Morens. Your exploits have been have piqued Archmagister Gannis's ears, and yeah, he had a dangerous mission for the 5 of you to venture to the volcanic plain, the volcanic devastated landscape of Merethisos, to the a region somewhat infamous for a failed explorer expedition to set up a new settlement not too long ago, in search for some magical artifacts from a stronghold of the forces of the Betrayer. The Betrayer being a Khan and his brood during the war between dragons, not too long ago. Not too long ago at all. You arrived in Merethisos. You decided to get some rest after travelling across the strange moss-covered volcanic plains, and wouldn't you know it, during the long rest, you were attacked by 2 large draconic predator-like creatures, who you saw off in a blaze of glory. Vanier at the very least created a new culinary art, which is to char your meat with floating lava orb. It was all very good, and that's where we pretty much left it, as you were picking yourselves up after the surprise attack. So, did I miss anything off? Or I think that's pretty much it.
Yep.
Beautiful, beautiful. We have our hope and fear from the last episode. If this is your first time joining us, hello, welcome. If you're watching us on YouTube, by all means hit the subscribe button, and then you can chat to us in chat. Or if you're on Twitch, you can just chat in the chat anyway. If you are excited for Daggerheart, make sure to hit the subscribe button, or the follow button, and yeah, we'll have loads of content like this coming out soon. Who wants to jump in?
Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go.
Intro time. All across the unknown world, rediscovery pushes ever onwards to find the lands and people lost. All thanks to our brave explorers.
Hi, I'm Dan, and I'm playing Vanya, the Wolfkin Warrior.
Hey, I'm Livy. I'm going to be playing Rayri, the Spirit Ranger.
Hi, my name's Theo, and I'm playing Cal, the Sangvar Guardian.
I'm Georgia, and I will be playing Alfric Stormhorn, a Dragon Scent Bard.
Hi, I'm Nate, and I'm playing Azakar, a Majani Seraph.
And my name is DM Dan, the GM in these adventures. The further we go, the more we learn of these magical tales from elsewhere. And so, we rejoin the 5 of you plus Archmagister-elect Gannis in the plains of Merethisos. Let's turn on some Merethisi music, shall we? And in the aftermath, well, in the immediate aftermath of the attack, the floating lava orb that kind of visited your tents, drifting off into the distance, the acrid smell of the dragon spawn horned hunter having just sort of like melting down and blowing away in divine or profane smoke. You're illuminated by the two burning tents that were a bit too close to the lava orb. And Alfric and Cal, you watch as your tents and presumably any items within it, within them, reduced to ash by the lava created fires. Who's bunking with who, fundamentally?
I think Cal will, and I think without any sort of, like, God, I can't think of the words today. Without any sort of hesitation, just be like, Azkar, is there room? Just doesn't ask anyone else. Just go straight over to Azkar first.
Yes, there is room. You, please.
Thanks.
Okay. And who's taking pity on Alfric? Who's kind of like, Alfric, you're able to save your day clothes, so you don't have to continue this adventure in your gym jams. But yeah, who's...
I think you should.
Yeah, true. I do this with style. Yeah, who's bunking with Alfric, or who's Alfric bunking with, I should say?
Vanya will offer the tent because he wants to take a shift in watching the camp.
Sure.
Vanya will just take my tent. It is fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah, not to worry. I feel a bit restless, so I'll take the next watch.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
So, in which case, yeah, as well, a bit. It's not too much of it. It's not as much of an issue as it could be, given that at least one of you is going to be awake throughout the night, keeping watch for any further intruders. Before you all kind of retire back to sleep, Archmagister-elect Gannis kind of apologises for not reacting sooner. He didn't realise what was happening, and you. I must admit, you all dealt with it so quickly and efficiently. I dare say I didn't have enough time to even begin to help, he says, looking somewhat kind of bashful, whilst also a little bit... There's a little cheeky glint in his eye as he, he praises your efforts. But as the remaining three of you who are due to take watch, the hours scroll by, much like Cal was able to. You watch as these kind of cooled blobs of floating kind of magma drifting lazily overhead like low altitude hot air balloons. You kind of watch those as they kind of mingle. They almost seem to mingle in front of the stars. And sure enough, the deep navy blue starlit sky begins to change hues to a pinkish and then an orangish as the sun begins to breach over the horizon, inviting dawn, and the warmth of the sun kind of washing over you to replace the ambient warmth of the kind of cooled lava fields that you find yourselves sat on. And with all that said, a new day starts, and the 5 of you are able to, well, I mean, there's less of it now to pack down, but you're able to pack down your camps quicker. And Gannis leads the way on your next day of adventuring.
Could I request something before we start packing up?
Oh, I suppose so.
Before both Azakar and Cal leave the tent to start packing up, Azakar's going to say, while I have you in private, may I speak freely with you?
Of course. What's wrong?
Before we slept last night, I had a vision. A vision of where we're going. A vision of this temple that we're visiting. I saw the same sort of mana crystals that when we first adventured together.
Yes.
But they looked more deadly. More, well, one was dripping with blood. And
right.
There was... My vision became fuzzy after a while, but I saw a humanoid figure reaching for this crystal. I am not skeptical of our group, but I am skeptical of Gannis. I feel like we should keep an eye on him. We are not aware of his motives quite yet, and I feel like we should keep close inspection. He is, after all, an arcane user.
Right. I agree. He seems very quick to make excuses. We'll see how the day goes, but thank you for telling me.
Of course. As much as I trust everyone else, I trust you the most.
And there's a sense then Cal kind of, not, I wouldn't say quite raises his eyebrows, but ever so slightly his expression is a bit softer. Because I think even he has noticed in the past that these two haven't always been able to gel on different opinions they've had, or because of his eye change, he's never been quite sure how Azkar feels about him anymore. So he just kind of nods. I trust you as well. And I trust your visions.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You should help with the tents.
Yes.
You both just immediately are given both it's like a thick sandwich, like thick bread with sort of scrambled egg and radigator meat.
We just see that enter the tent.
It just two of them just slide in.
Camera just
doesn't want to disturb.
It's just in between us as we're talking. Oh, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, as your hand delivered your breakfast meals,
Breakfast perhaps.
Your breakfast perhaps. Yeah, as you pack down, you can see like everyone else kind of busying themselves, kind of packing up. Gannis is attempting to help Alfric with his tent, or is it the other way around? It's not entirely clear. But soon enough the camp is packed down and you're on your way. Who of the 5 of you is leading this troop across the plains of Merethisos? So to paint you a picture, the sky overhead is clear, and it is a gentle sky blue, like a baby blue, with very few. The few clouds that are overhead are very wispy in nature, but it stands in stark contrast to these. Yeah, they're almost like rolling fields. The terrain isn't flat. In fact, it seems to. It's clear when you know what you're looking at that you can see the sort of like the bulbous lava flows from what you assume was the eschaton at the end of the war, having spread out across this land, cooled, and is now carpeted with this vibrant orange moss. There are a few kind of rock-like structures jutting from the volcanic fields, but yeah, the rock-like structures are made of a dark stone. Almost, they look volcanic as well. They're dark, porous material. But of the otherwise with the relatively featureless kind of plains, who is it that's leading the troop? Who's at the forefront?
Vanya will offer unless anyone else wants to take lead, but I do have abilities that help. But I know that Rayri's also got good capabilities as well. So it depends what Rayri wants to do.
Both go at the front.
I second that. Maybe both of you lead, and then Askar and I can be at the back with Alfric in between us, so he's safe as houses in the middle.
Sure.
I know that Rayri, you got Ridgeborn background, haven't you? So we, no matter who goes, we both get advantage on our roll for survival. So yeah, either or, unless obviously Dan, if you want to make a call, who has to roll.
No, that's fine. Well, starting with Vanya then, what obstacle that stands in the way stands in the way of the group? What obstacle is it that you kind of help with the most, for all intents and purposes? So it's either a geographical obstacle or not, as the case may be. But yeah, what's the one obstacle that you help the party overcome?
So just repaint me that picture. We're going along this harsh landscape with these hot, these floating balls.
Yes. Yes, that's a good point. Sorry. Yeah. Overhead, the lava orbs that were crusted over in the night. Now with the higher ambient, like the higher temperature with the sun out, the crusts, the orbs have heated up. That the crusts have melted into the magma. So these are just, they look like floating, very small, floating suns. But their heat has caused them to rise up. So they're about 100 feet overhead.
Yeah, so I'm imagining with this landscape, although it's quite barren in the sense of, it's not like traversing the mountain or anything like that. You're going over lots of fairly flattish landscape pieces before we reach like the cliffs and whatnot. But I imagine there's Vanya's using a lot of his senses, his sense of smell, and his heightened awareness as he steps through, testing where it's safe to stand, because there might be some softer pieces of ground that might just crumble into these little gas geysers or lava, more molten areas that might not have a thick crust. So it's a lot of almost like traversing through a minefield, but in this scenario. All these molten steps, and it's just making sure he provides a party with a safe path through this harsh environment.
Okay. So if it's, this sounds quite instincty.
Yeah, I was planning to go with instinct.
Okay.
Because I've got the hope to burn. Okay. I've got heightened senses. I'm going to spend a hope, and because I'm Ridgeborn, I have advantage on traversing harsh environments, cliffs, ledges, things like that. So, yeah, I'm going to make this instinct roll with advantage, plus an extra 3 on top of this roll.
Sure. So bear in mind, when you click instinct now, it will automatically roll your 3 in with the result.
Okay, so let me click. I'm going to click the advantage button.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get +3 on top of that 20.
Oh, +3
from
on
my so 23 total
with hope.
With that instinct roll, and that was rolled with hope.
Cool. Okay.
So I just get the hope. No, I'm going to put it onto a Slayer die.
Okay.
So I'm going to go down to 5 hope.
Yep. No, that sounds
I'm just going to mend that.
Daisy is extremely excited for you. Cool, fantastic. So yeah, with your eagle eyes, you manage to kind of you notice that there are a few spots where the crust is perhaps worryingly, the crust is weak enough that there's still some kind of magma flow. You can sense it from the smell, from the heat from the ground. But yeah, you're able to avoid
your
that.
Steps.
And Chris is right. Daisy is absolutely loving the extra Slayer die. But yes, you managed to steer the group clear of all of those. Rayri, in the second kind of part of the journey, what's the obstacle that presents itself that you help the group overcome?
I think as we get further and closer and closer, the terrain becomes sort of more rocky. Maybe there's been some sort of larger sort of pieces of ground that are more jutting out, and we've got to go sort of up and over some things. And Rayri and Vinny are testing out the rocks to see if they will move before anyone else goes on them. So just hopping around like a little mountain goat. Just
sure. Okay. So in which case, yeah, as you're heading towards every step you take, you're heading towards a sort of like the mountain range that was originally off in the distance, but it's now looming larger and larger. Which ability are you using to help scout?
Agility.
Yeah. For the hops, skips, and jumps.
Or for the hops and the skips and the jumps.
Okay. Yeah. Please. Oh yeah.
I could use a hope because Vinny is my trusted mount. So together,
yes,
he is a secure boy on these things. And I'm Ridgeborn, so I get advantage.
Okay. Yeah. Roll them bones.
With advantage. Plus 2. So that's 22. 23, sorry.
23
With
as well.
experience.
With fear. Okay, so you're able to, as you kind of scale the ridges, kind of get to higher ground on the back of Vinny, who this oversized Chihuahua, like he's like what, 3.5 foot tall kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's like Shetland, like large mountain goat, Shetland pony.
This Shetland pony-sized Chihuahua, who's scampering up the sides of this mountain range like a goat. You are able to kind of pick out the route as the terrain becomes a bit more rocky and mountainous as you get closer to the mountain, face itself. But as and yeah, you're able to direct the party through. However, even as you do it, the closer you get to your destination, you can't help but shake this sense of sort of like inevitable trouble that's brewing. It's like an invisible storm on the horizon that's getting closer and closer. So I will take a fear. Go up to 3. Cool. And between the two of you, Rayri, as you kind of help guide the party through, you eventually find yourselves pretty much almost at the base of this near vertical mountain wall. And you can't, you notice as you look up that there are sort of like cooled lava flows that are pouring seemingly over the edge of something from up above and sort of like coming down, like cascading down the side of this sheer vertical wall. But behind all of the porous volcanic rock, like the black volcanic rock, you do spy evidence of mortal-made structures. You can see that jutting out from one of these kind of volcanic flows, like lava flows almost, is the carving of a pillar. And it takes Gannis a little while, but then he kind of excitedly points. There, I think that's it. I think that's it. I think we found it, he says. And as he scurries into this, like, almost like valley of sorts, at the far end, you can see, at a glance, it might look a bit like a cave mouth. Until you get close enough to notice that peering out from the, like, over the end, the cave mouth, if you will, is a carving of a dragon's head. It's quite a thin and narrow dragon's head. Half of its face is obscured by cooled lava flow. But as you get close enough, you realise that the wings of this dragon form the kind of the door arch that the lava has kind of flowed round, almost as if the dragon was doing its best to protect the entrance. Beneath the moss, you suddenly feel what appears to be broken and worn flagstones in lieu of the porous rock. And as you approach, who's got a knowledge score of at least 1? Is it just Alfric? Okay.
We're all stupid.
That's 2.
Alfric, as you approach and you kind of see, the half of this god's face carved in stone, the half not covered over by the volcanic advance. What catches your attention is you can see the dragon's left eye, and on its forehead, its right eye is covered, but on its forehead you can just about make out the left-hand half of a third eye mounted in its forehead. And from your books and your stories that you've read, you immediately know that this god depicted is Naravid, now known as the Doomsayer. And Gannis is sort of like almost excitedly clapping. We've done it. We've found it, and I don't want to chance it, but I don't want to tempt fate. But it looks empty, he says as he looks around, and he's not wrong. Azakar, you have a particular distaste for the forces of the Betrayer, but you are stood in front of one of their temples, a temple to one of the Betrayer gods, and there are no worshippers, there are no signs of life. There were the dragon spawn from last night, but yeah, Gannis is right, it just seems abandoned. How does that make you feel?
He feels like that's a good thing. Like, there is a reason why there's no one here, and it should be left abandoned. And that, unless there is something that we need to retrieve here to make sure that it's in safe hands, then we should probably see if we can make sure that it's never entered.
Okay. Well, as you like, Gannis seems to already be kind of heading towards the entrance, like a like an
I was going to
excited.
say, is there a roll I can do to stop him?
I don't
Stop
think,
him.
I don't think it's even a roll if you want to body him, because he is approaching this temple.
Not body him.
Well, you can sort of like you
Rugby tackle
get in
him.
front of him
No.
or shout for him. But yeah, he is approaching this, like in typical wizard manner. He is approaching this temple with the excited giddiness of a child at a sweet shop.
I just want to clasp my hand on his shoulder firmly and just not say really anything, but give him the impression that he's not to go far from the group.
He jumps slightly as you grab him. It's almost like he's been kind of shocked by lightning almost. And then he sort of like turns to you and acknowledging what your stern face is saying. My apologies, I'm just... I will do my best to contain myself, Master Rylith. And he sort of like takes a deep breath and he turns to the rest of you. Beg my pardon. Shall we? He says, gesturing inside.
Let's stick together.
He nods. Cal, please, if you would be so kind, roll me a reactionary. Instinct or knowledge, your call.
I don't know. Yeah, I think they're both the same, actually.
Okay.
There we go.
In which case, your...
Oh no, instinct. I'll do instinct.
Instinct. Okay, fine.
So one I didn't add to my... Give me 1 second. The one is... and there you go. Roll normal.
Okay.
Not too hot.
You will get... you won't get the hope, that's big man, it's reactionary. In which case, as you enter into the temple under this sort of like archway of this dragon, Alfred, have you, in your excitedness, have you kind of said who the god is?
I think he's been a bit of a sad sack on this walk to the having lost his tent and everything in it. I think he's feeling a bit sorry for himself, but he probably does perk up a little bit at the sight of this. And also, it's a dragon, and he feels a certain affinity to dragons, even though, of course, it's not a well-regarded dragon.
Okay. In which case, yeah, perhaps you're a little distracted by kind of Alfric's, like a sudden, ever so slight kind of uplift in pep. But yeah, you glance at this narrow face of the god as you walk under the arch, and I guess it's everyone's in a weird position because gods are depicted in many ways, but less than 2 years ago, the vast majority of Elsewhere would have had first-hand accounts of what the gods actually look like. So while you notice that this sculpture is clearly a bit more kind of stylized, a bit more artistic than what the truth may have been, but there is if there is a deeper thought to be had, it's lost as you're kind of distracted by Alfric's pep. And with that, the 6 of you enter. Yes,
question.
Dan. Yes.
But because Vanya's not very intelligent, and seeing the look on Alfric's face, I'm like, Alfric, can you tell how old this thing is?
I mean, I don't really know rocks and things. Is there a way that he could possibly gauge?
I mean,
ancient ruins here.
Yeah,
This
I
is
mean,
where I'm
well,
kind of thinking.
if you can think of like an argument for it, then we'll go for that. So, fundamentally, pick your poison.
Use well-read,
Yeah.
his experience, and since his parents' library was, of course, quite full of things, I imagine somewhere there would be at least some reference book filled with illustrations of previous temples and previous areas regarding the gods. I think especially his mother would be very interested in that, having given birth to a dragon scent. I think it would be a bit of an obsession of hers, especially in the early days of his birth.
Okay. Which ability score do you think that ties in with?
I would say... Oh, I've lost his page. I mean, I suppose it would be knowledge.
Yeah, okay. I'll agree with that. So this is to fundamentally kind of see if you've... It would be like us going, oh, this is a Tudor building because I learnt that in a book. Yeah. Right.
Yes. For some reason I've been kicked out of Hero Forge.
Ah. Problem. I can... would you like me to... Do you trust me with the role?
Yes, I trust you with the role.
Unless it's bad.
Unless it's bad, in which case. Have you got any experiences you want to stack onto this?
I think it's well read, isn't it? Which is
well read.
Well read. Big part.
Yes,
Okay.
which is +3.
+3, okay. So you have rolled a... 19 +3, 22 with fear. You do recognise that this temple is incredibly kind of old. It is, I mean, it's literally carved from the mountainside by the looks of it, and it's mainly fallen into such severe disrepair because, I mean, either the war or definitely a volcano. But you notice that some of the sort of like the draconic runes that inscribe the sides are sort of like, it would be like us reading like ancient Latin, kind of like it's old. So, you know, at some point, this temple, the worship happening within this temple would have been celebrated amongst the people of elsewhere, whereas now, not so much. You've rolled high enough. I'll let you ask me a question and then I'll answer it.
Yes, I suppose. How old does it look?
You would wager it's at least 600 or 700 years old. I mean, you know, dragons have been the gods of elsewhere as long as anyone can remember. But yeah, this building, this structure, this carved temple has stood the test of time pretty well. It is banged up, but you know, we'll cut it some slack. A reality-ending war rolled through, so
That'll do it.
that'll do it.
I'll relay this to Vanya.
And also, I will say that, yeah, as part of Alfric's explanations, it would be made clear that the dragon above the entrance to the cave, to the temple, is Naravid the Doomsayer.
What does he do? Naravid.
Georgia, if you like flap your lips, I'll do Alfred's speech in response. No, so Naravid was always considered a like a prophesizer, a fortune teller of the gods. Naravid had an intense fascination with the stars and like astral bodies and their movements, and he gleaned events of the future seemingly before they would happen. But was that a product of his like astrology and cosmology, or was it a product of his divinity? Naravid would never give a straight answer, even to his fellow brothers and sisters within the pantheon. But during the war, forces aligned with Naravid always eerily seemed to be 1, 2, 3 steps ahead of everyone else. Naravid became a schemer almost because of this foresight that he was granted. But yeah, certainly not as warlike as some of his other betrayer brothers and sisters, like Zerathane. But yeah, still handy in a conflict, if not a fight.
Well, Alfric, you know quite a lot about this, don't you?
I've had a lot of time to look things up, not being involved much in the conflict, as it were.
Well, I'll leave all that stuff to you. And, wait a minute, does that mean this thing knows we're here?
I hope it wouldn't work like that.
Vanya starts, like, looking around, and then starts, like, doing some weird movements to try and seem a bit erratic and like unknowable.
Every third or fourth step is a little skip, just to see if the god of prophecy knew it was going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a clever boy, our Vanya.
While Ajakar's overhearing this conversation at Alfric and Vanya saying he's just going to sort of mumble just small prayers of ire underneath his breath, and I'm going to roll my prayer dice because I forgot again.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice little segue into that.
And was there something you were going to say, Theo?
No.
Okay, cool.
Cal is just listening and absorbing all the information as it probably reminds him of the war, as most things to do with betrayal gods do.
Okay. Well, as the stragglers drag their feet, eventually everyone manages to make their way inside the temple. And in the pitch black, you find yourselves having to produce lanterns or torches. So I will very quickly ask, who is carrying a light source?
Does my head count?
No.
I'm carrying a torch.
Okay, so Alfred's
I'll be carrying a lantern.
I've got a torch.
Yeah. Vanya?
If there's enough light sources, then he won't. But actually, do you know what? He can just drop it. So yeah, he'll carry a light source if need be, just so then he can just drop it on the ground if he gets in combat.
We'll turn that back on. Rayri?
Yeah.
Has Vinny got one in his mouth?
Yeah, can Vinny have one? Yeah, just hold it.
Okay, well, the 5 of you have light. Chris, you're absolutely right. It is very bright because there's 5 light sources bunched in the same place. But yeah, as you enter in through this, this entrance hall, you immediately find yourselves in a hall that widens out to, let's say, it's about 30 foot wide. Immediately in front of you there are two kind of pillars that rise up to this this kind of curved ceiling, probably about 30-40 feet above your heads, and you can see you can see what once would have been very beautiful like reliefs and carvings of draconic figures, so presumably sculptures of Naravid and the Naravid spawn, like the various dragon spawn that would have operated under Naravid. But the beauty is irrecoverably destroyed and tarnished by the sheer devastation of the place. Rubble lies all around you, built up to surprising heights. You can see chunks missing from the ceiling and the walls.
GM question again.
Yes.
I know that disregarding dragon scent, but maybe some draconic creatures might, or like brood might take on slight appearances of their like inline dragon, right? Like if there's a certain dragon they follow, they might have features that might look similar to.
Correct.
So those draconic creatures we fought in the night,
Dragon
did they look anything similar to this particular dragon in the pictures?
You know what, Vanier? It's funny you should ask.
He is a smart boy.
Nosebleed.
Because the one thing that Alfric's impressed upon you, and what you're seeing from some of the carvings on like the pillars and the walls around you, is that one of the defining features of the brood of Naravid are the third eye. And the two draconic beasts you fought last night were decidedly dual-eyed. It's not a concrete, colour-coded for your convenience kind of scenario, but the sheer kind of, you can't help but shake the horns look different. The whole MO just feels a bit different. You can't help but shake the feeling that the dragon spawn you fought last night were not of the brood of Naravid.
So potentially another, like, obviously brood of another evil deity that might have some sort of interest in this site, perhaps.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. In much less prettier words, Vanier mutters these out loud.
Those
What
guys,
do you
4
think?
eyes. This guy, 3 eyes. Not same.
Yeah. Missing eye.
What?
The lizards from last night.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they're not of this draconic entity. Or in terms of brood or whatever. A lot of these draconic figures tend to have similar features to the deities they come from.
I didn't really look at it. I was just looking at his big teeth more than I was looking at his eyeballs, to be honest.
So was I.
Well,
honestly.
hunter's instincts.
I'm a hunter. What are you talking about? The hunter's instinct's not to get bitten. You know?
Maybe I was thinking about how I might cook it, but hey.
Yeah. One less eyeball kebab.
As the two of you say this, like as Rayri and Vanier say this, Cal and Azakar, you can see that, like, past the rubble that lies immediately in front of you, this corridor, like this hall, extends for about 60-ish feet. Before it ends, there are a number of kind of pathways off, like on the left and right, two on each side. But you notice that there's a doorway about 60 feet in front of you, and through it you can make out a soft, or like a warm orange glow emanating from whatever lies further beyond. I will invite the 5 of you to move your move your tokens through the temple, within reason. But as you pick your way through the temple, over the rubble, you can see that a great deal of devastation has been wrought on this place. And Cal, as you pass through the doorway before being accompanied by the others, you find yourself in what appears to be a very, very large amphitheatre of sorts, large enough that your torchlight doesn't reach it just fades into darkness. But as you glance around, you also notice that chunks of the floor seem to have broken away and fallen into the earth, giving way to what you would expect is lava, which is illuminating the room slightly. And Azakar, you were the last to enter the room, and as you step between the two kind of carved pillars into this large room this large amphitheatre, you get this sudden shudder of deja vu, as if you've seen this place before, albeit slightly more intact than it currently is. There are a number of kind of pillars broken and fallen down. Your lamps don't only just reach up to illuminate the surface overhead, and there's a large dome ceiling pocked with bits of kind of missing rubble. But yeah, this whole place just looks a bit devastated. I will invite you to all to move your tokens once again.
So, is there something in this middle bit here?
Well, if you would like to investigate, plonk your token near and we'll...
What's this?
So, as you get a bit closer, on the floor, the floor itself is made of this, what would have been like a smooth, maybe polished stone, but over time has eroded it with dust and devastation. But in the centre of this large hall, there's what appears to be two rings of a gold-like material. The gold is bent and buckled and kind of sheared where the ground has given way. But Rayri, as you kind of investigate, you notice that to your right is a large, 10-foot diameter golden orb of sorts, like a large brass gold-like orb, which has kind of seemingly toppled into this fissure in the ground and gotten wedged, and the underside of it is slightly deformed from the heat of the magma reservoir underfoot. You can also see, Cal and Alfric, you notice that there are a number of wrecked cogs of some sort, kind of interlinking with the gold rings, and there is another smaller gold orb kind of lying amongst them, which curiously has what appears to be an L-shaped bar jutting from it, and the L-shaped bar ends in a like as if it's snapped from something. But you can't help but get the feeling that this is all part of some sort of large contraption, and in actual fact, Cal, glancing around, you also spy that there's another piece of this contraption just a bit further on. And you recognise, as you get closer, that this also a brass or gold orb. It's got the metal bars coming off the bottom of it, but there are smaller spheres attached, and it reminds you of one of those planetary astrolabes. And this one, whilst more intact, the arms are bent and buckled, the orbs are dented from the what seems to have been the pillar that's collapsed on top of it. But it makes you wonder if this whole thing was some sort of large and extravagant planetarium, like constellation, cosmological path tracker. Fascinating, says Gannis, as he sort of like steps round past you, Vanier, and he starts like inspecting everything around. And Rayri, perhaps you and he both see it at the same time, but you notice a large... It's a relatively large like carved crystal. It's I'm not quite sure what the name of it would be, like what the name of the shape is, but it's sort of cylindrical, but made of sides. But then on the flat ends they taper into a point, and it's around the round bit of the cylinder that is made up of 20 sides. And where the crystal tapers in at the top and bottom, there are metallic bands that seem to be of the same construction, the same material as that of the ring embedded in the floor. But you do notice that it looks cracked and heavily damaged. And you see Gannis's face visibly drop at the sight of it.
How big are we? Are we talking like?
It's probably about maybe
the size of a human head or smaller.
About this big.
The size of a baby.
So what? 2, 3? Like it's quite relatively narrow. Like the circumference of it is relatively small, but it's about 2.5, 3 foot in length or height, whatever you want to call it.
Is it attached?
It looks like it. Well, it's like just kind of tucked under some of the bent and buckled, like machinery of this contraption. I mean, it's yeah. You can't help but shake the feeling. You suspect that it is part of it, but it looks like it has suffered a pretty rough fate.
Is this one of the bits you were looking for? Looking at Gannis, looking sad.
Yeah, Gannis nods and like kneels down to get a slightly closer look. Yeah, it would be difficult to say exactly what it was, but this looks like a power source, perhaps, a focus maybe, of whatever this contraption once was. I suspect that there would have been an incredible amount of power contained within this crystal, and perhaps we should split up to see if there's anything else. There is more to this temple.
Yeah, because splitting up's always a good idea in an evil temple.
Well, perhaps we go in pairs. Then there's 6 of us, and there's, by my reckoning, he says as he stands up and has a little look, perhaps one of you go left, one of you carry on, one of us go right.
I think Ray looks to Azakar and Cal, who are much more the decision makers of the group. What do you think? Are we allowed?
Cal, your thoughts?
Above board, I think I am just concerned that whoever gets left with Gannis, that's the issue. I'm like,
not me.
Like yeah.
Leave Vanya with him.
Genuinely, Vanya might be a good idea because Vanya will beat him up if we need him to.
I just found them dead. I don't know why.
I gave him cuddle around the neck.
Yeah, I think Cal, having like leadership experience in this situation, he'll glance at Azakar a moment, consider, and then he will ask if Vanya can pair up with Gannis.
Okay.
Azakar go with Rayri, and I'll take Alfric. And we should have a signal if things go wrong.
Okay. So, which of those pairs is going left?
You guys can choose where you go, by the way.
Which? Let's go left.
So, Rayri and Azakar go left?
Yep.
And I'll go right.
Okay. Alfric and Cal will go right, which leaves Vanya and Gannis to go straight ahead.
I mean, Alfric can do the telepathy thing that he has. You can only link with one person, but it does mean we're at least connected to one pair.
Well, as you suggest this, Gannis looks over to you and that's a fantastic idea, Master Stormhall. Would it be wise if I can link our minds so we can telepathically talk to all of us, a conference room of sorts, it would allow us to speak silently over distances.
Elsewhere teams.
Yes. Who are we? Are you in favour of mind linking to one another?
You what?
You what?
Perhaps it might not be as necessary for the two of us to communicate, Vanya, but if you wanted to be able to communicate with the others, you could do it with your mind.
Sorry, Cal's like, fine.
That's great.
So, is anyone objecting to the mind link?
Can we do it with Vinny as well?
I fear the results may vary. So, Gannis, with your collective approval, you see him sort of like the crystal atop his staff begins to glow as he incants and runes emerge from it and begin orbiting around. And as he casts the mind link, your heads are filled with this high-pitched whining, like a screaming, and you all flinch for a few moments before it very quickly kind of dies down, and suddenly it sounds like you're in a crowded room, and eventually the noises begin to almost kind of coalesce into one another until you are able to hear 5 independent voices in each of your minds.
So, question.
Yes.
Above board, are we able to have private DMs with the people we have now linked to, or is it always a group chat?
This is unfortunately a Microsoft elsewhere Teams call, so yeah.
Cool.
So no slipped
Just
into
wanted to
DMs.
check.
Yeah, no slipping into any
No
DMs.
DMs.
Cal.
You might all just like start just hearing initially like, wonder what I'm gonna cook everyone later.
Yes.
Yeah, is it like,
Maybe some stew.
is it into our like? Do we have to like think about talking, or is it just linked to our brains?
Consciousness.
Because I think Ravy's mind, as she is like ADHD, is just like.
Gannis informs you that you can communicate, but you can choose to not communicate.
yourselves.
Yeah. So yeah, if you think about what you want to say, then that will broadcast.
Sorry.
So yeah,
Sorry.
no smutty, not safe for work thoughts accidentally slip. Well, maybe they accidentally slip out.
Daydreaming.
But yes, we'll start with Azakar and Rayri. As you head left out of the amphitheatre, you find what, like, as you step between two kind of cracks in the floor, it create almost like a bridge over the lava. You find yourselves approaching a ramp of rubble. And as you head up it, you are met with a somewhat chilling sight of what appears to be a camp of sorts, littered with old skeletons. There's an overturned table. You can see there are, by your count, 4 tents. But yeah, presumably the inhabitants of this tent met us quite a sudden end.
Is there anything around that we can kind of tell off the bat what might have happened to these people?
You study the skeleton that's next to you, wearing some robes, and if this person was wearing any kind of valuables or jewelry of sorts, they seem to have been stripped from the body. But Azakar, you notice from the vestments that the design of the robes would imply that this person was once a worshipper of one of the betrayer gods. Perhaps a Khan, maybe Naravid. The cloth is too discoloured and kind of age-worn to know which team this person used to fight for. But looking around, you wonder, are these remnants of... are these all that's left of the betrayer forces that stopped the expedition from sticking when that explorer expedition rolled through? Have you got any questions, Riri?
Yeah, can I take a little look in the tents and see if there's anything like left in them, like supplies or things that they may have left behind, or clues? You know, a dead man's journal. That would be fabulous.
Sure. Roll me a...
Instinct?
Perceive, sense...
Perceive?
Yeah, I'll say instinct.
Oh, come on. Thirteen. With fear.
You do find a journal. I won't take a fear, but I will introduce the complication of the journal is patchy with its notes, but it is... you quickly find out that this camp was... so after the kind of retaliatory attacks by the explorers, like it's dated about 9-ish months ago, the remaining kind of betrayer forces fell back to this temple, and they received instruction that help would arrive, like reinforcements would be coming, but from the bloodstains that blot the rest of the journal, it would seem that their ends arrived much sooner than the reinforcements, if the reinforcements ever arrived. And given the somewhat recency of it all, the fact that these 4, you can see, have been stripped to bone, it wasn't a natural decomposition. Perhaps scavenging animals have picked them clean.
Could I tell if they were scavenging animals picked clean as a ranger?
Yeah. In fact,
it's got like little nibble marks in the bones. Things have been.
It is definitely a creature of sorts. Perhaps the teeth marks don't. There aren't teeth marks per se. It looks more like something with a circular mouth. Like a big circular mouth, almost like a squid or an octopus, something like that. Like a circle of teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a sandworm.
Something like that.
Great.
Yeah, that's what you.
Sounds lovely.
That's what you find as you kind of scavenge through this tent over here. We will skip on to Cal and Alfric. You're going right, I believe.
Yes.
Sure, yes.
Don't step in the lava.
Up here?
The stairs?
Well, so if you're going that way, so yeah, is you?
Oh.
Well, it's up to you.
I can't.
So you can either go up these stairs here in front of you, or you feel like if you're careful, there might be a route over the lava bridges in this direction.
I mean, let's head in that direction.
I will. Yeah, that sounds good.
In which case, as you carefully pick your way through, you also climb a ramp of rubble into another, like the wall is, there's a hole in the wall of this room that you've just stepped into, and you notice that there are more mechanical contraptions similar to the one in the central antechamber, albeit smaller. It seems to have been all but destroyed by rubble that has landed on top of it. But Cal, to your kind of left, you notice that what you would assume to be the standard entrance to this room has been blocked in, like caved in. But yeah, this room looks quite empty. You can't help but wonder if maybe whatever contraption is under this rubble was perhaps the point of interest within this room.
Interesting. Is there anything that we can do to get into the rubble? How bad is the rubble? Is it?
I mean, you could probably sift.
Alfric has levitate, and we know how much that Alfric loves to use levitate.
Here's one good spell.
I mean, in which case, yeah, if you want to roll me a spellcast check for levitate.
I don't know if there's like an item limit on. I can just levitate a rocket.
Yeah, we'll say that if you want to cast levitate, it will just kind of hoof up enough to have a little rummage.
Cool. Yes, it's a spellcast roll. So +3.
Ooh, spicy roll.
Yeah.
And hope.
Yes. 18 with hope, so that's a 21 with hope.
21 with hope. Cool. So you managed to lift enough of the rubble out of the way that your suspicions are confirmed. Whilst the thing is, bent and buckled out of any real sense of shape, you do get the impression that this was also some sort of like large, ornate and elaborate astrolabe of sorts. There's a central sphere which is then kind of orbited by other planetary bodies, which each of themselves have things orbiting around those. But what you do notice as you pull this all away is that on a nameplate on the central disc, on the central orb, in draconic text, so it's like celestial if we were talking D&D. Well, Alfred, do you suppose that you know how to speak draconic, celestial?
Probably he can get by with like the basics.
Okay.
He wouldn't be able to speak it fluently, but bits and pieces.
That's
he
fine.
can order a croissant.
I mean, the basics is all you need, because you realise that this central orb depicts elsewhere. You're not entirely sure what these other orbiting bodies are, but maybe there are other worlds like elsewhere out in the void. Or perhaps perhaps maybe these are, well, Cal, you've heard these stories that some of the stars, well, these aren't stories at all. Cal, you're world travelled, so you would kind of know that in the night sky there were 20 stars that burned brighter than others, that shone brighter than others. And you were told that these 20 gleaming stars in the night sky were the homes of the 20 dragons. And you would also know that since the war, 8 of those stars have gone dark. And at a glance, you count 20 orbs. So you wonder, perhaps, are these the homes of the dragons orbiting around elsewhere?
I share this with Alfric as well, so he knows what I'm thinking.
We'll jump to the last two, so Vanier and Gannis. So as you step up, as you begin walking up, Gannis following in behind you. Vanier, as you head up the stairs, you step around the large kind of boulder, and you find that you can just about see through a gap in the rubble that's kind of collapsed in, that there is, you kind of get the impression there's an important room behind this wall of debris, but it is completely, like, it would be all but impossible to get in. It's just too much to move.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah. Is it? Would it have been a case where there was a way or a means with my sheer strength that I could find a means to get through? But if it's too much rubble, then yeah,
it would be like a whole slabs of the ceiling kind of collapsed in.
So I get the sense that this is definitely a dead end.
Yeah. And as you do that, Vanier, are there any kind of quick snippet conversations that are happening over the mind link?
There's a dead end here.
We were like, we found some more tents. Do you want a tent? Alfric, do you want a tent?
Yes, please.
Let's get Alfric his tent. I, if there's more than one tent, sure, but make sure Alfric gets a tent. I'll be fine otherwise.
We could share a tent.
We could share a tent.
I'll try and sort of dust the skeleton off it.
Yes, really, I was going to say, is it more important we tell them that we found bodies?
Oh, yeah. And then
Hey,
also
Ray.
a load of dead people.
Riri. Is there any treasure?
No, just an old journal. It's a load of tosh, really. Just said, oh, people are going to come help us, and then they're not, and they're we're all going to die.
Ray, Rary has identified some mysterious marks on these skeletons. I would recommend that people keep a vigil eye.
Look out for any really big squids.
Squids?
Yeah, it looks like they're sucked dry by a squid.
I immediately start looking up on the ceilings.
We found some mechanism that shows the homes of the dragons, or that's what it appears to look like.
That sounds nicer than what we found.
It was under a load of rubble.
Oh.
Alfred was able to help get it out.
Yes.
Oh.
Who's... I think it might be Azakar, given the steps you've already taken on this path. You notice that there is one voice that is decidedly more quiet than the rest of yours.
Yeah, I wonder.
Vinny.
And Vanier,
Where's Gannon?
as you turn around to look to see where Gannis is, you notice that he's sort of like he's stopped just outside of the ring of gold inlaid on the floor, and he's crouching down, and it's clear that he's kind of looking at something. And he's kind of muttering and murmuring to himself, and then hearing your footsteps kind of ring out over the sound of the magma bubbling down below. He looks up to you with this somewhat not crazed look, but he just looks a bit skittish, and I think there's some power still left in this, Vanier, he says. And you realise he's holding the 20-sided crystal.
I guess Vanya would just be like, is this what we've came for?
Gannis, holding this thing, he's turning it over in his hands, he's peering through it. It's reflecting the light from the ambient glow of the lava. And his head dips slightly, and then he looks back up to you. Yes, I think it is. And you watch as this mage, while looking at you, turns the bottom a click. And Vanier, you feel like the floor underneath you has just dropped out from under your feet. And the other four of you can hear Vanier and Gannis's voice slightly kind of echoing through to your respective rooms, and you also feel your stomachs lurch as if you've just begun falling through the earth. And you hear Gannis's voice echoing, I think this is exactly what we were looking for. And when you come to... you find yourselves in rooms similar to where you were. But the surfaces are jagged and reflective, like they're made of a rough crystal. And for four of you, it immediately evokes memories of being in the Crystal Tower. And Alfric and Cal, as you look up, you can see that where there were broken pieces of mechanism and machinery, there is now this, I guess you would call it a reflection of this contraption that gently rotates in front of you. The room, there is no hole in the wall like the one that you entered in. Instead, the room looks well kept and ordered, but you hear some gasps of surprise from behind you. And you turn to see people, but they look as if, as you peer at them, their outlines shift as if you're looking at them through a kaleidoscope. The light around you constantly shifting through all the hues that comprise light. Azakar and Rayri, in place of a graveyard of a campsite, you find yourself, Rayri, you find yourself between a 15-ish foot long table and some bookshelves. The ground underneath your feet reflects all of the imperfections that would indicate almost like a gem encrusted floor, perhaps like a marble type floor underneath. Azakar, you turn to see two humanoids, Lorivar you suspect, turn and look at you with surprise as you seemingly appear out of thin air. And Rayri, you turn to see a Lorivar woman in robes, her face somewhat distorted by the shifting crystalline nature of it all, look to you and say, "Hello?" She peers at you, looking at you as if you're some sort of spectre or apparition. Azakar, as you glance around this place, it looks like the world, your vision, it looks the same as how your vision turned during your divination meeting. Vanya, you land on your feet, seemingly, despite the fact your feet never seemingly left the floor. But instead of the kneeling form of Ganis, you see a huge mechanism in the centre of the room. You can now see the vaulted ceiling overhead. It's impossibly high up. And this thing just, this large kind of planetary astrolabe just turns, and there's a sound of heavy clonking gears as it moves step on step. It stands proudly between 8 pillars that rise up from a ring of precious stone that circles this machine. And as you complete your inspection of your surroundings, you peer back up the stairs to what was a dead end, and you see a woman, a wolfkin woman, looking at you with a surprised look. She doesn't look as crystalline as everyone else, but you note that her skin is darker than yours, but in place of her left eye, there is what appears to be a blue gem. The headpiece she wears prominently displays another gem similar to it on her forehead. And your mind kind of goes to the depictions of Naravid that you've seen through this place. She wields a staff of a marble type construction with silver decoration. The staff topper looks like a spread fan, but upside down. And as she looks at you curiously from under this 3-horned headpiece, she bids you welcome. Hello, stranger.
Hello?
as she welcomes you, you see a shape moving behind her.
I could smell it first.
And this long, winding neck twists and lifts to reveal a head, undeniably draconic in nature. And as this dragon spawn looks at you, you notice that unlike the deep blue robes of the priestess, the scales of this dragon are a brilliant emerald green. And the priest, you hear a rumbling emit from the dragon. And the priestess turns and says, "Lord Eindrith, we appear to have visitors." And you, as this dragon peers at you through bright yellow eyes, the horns similar, undeniably similar to the horns of the hunters you fought in the camp. The dragon growls as it eyes you warily. And it dawns on all of you that you are now in a reflection of the Temple of Naravid at some point before its destruction. And as the enormity of this dawns on you, we'll grab a quick break.
There is a dragon, there is a dragon.
So, if you enjoyed that, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're on YouTube, or follow if you're over on Twitch. We're going to continue this in about sort of like 10 to 15-ish minutes. So I reckon, let's say 15 minutes, which will mean we're back at 10 to 10, give or take. But yeah, comment or type in chat with your theories about what is happening to our poor adventurers, and after the break we'll see if you are in fact correct or not. But with all that said, thank you for watching so far, thank you for playing, we'll see you in a short while. Bye.